The illusion of coincidence. In a world where events seem to happen randomly, there is a persistent myth. One that claims coincidences are just accidents, mere chance encounters in the vast expanse of life. But Thomas knew better. He had long since realized that nothing, absolutely nothing, was a coincidence. Every action, every word, every seemingly insignificant moment was woven into the fabric of a grand design, an intricate pattern where every thread was intentional, every knot placed with purpose. Thomas often felt like he was standing on the edge of a great stage, watching the actors play their parts, oblivious to the fact that their strings were being pulled from behind the curtain. The people in charge, those who seemed to hold power, were not the true masters. They were puppets, their every move dictated by unseen hands. And the worst part, most of them didn't even realize it. "Wake up, ladies and gentlemen," Thomas would plead. "Can't you see the bullshit? You can smell it, taste it. It's everywhere, thick as smoke. You've got to be shitting me if you think any of this is by accident." One night, years ago, Thomas had been flipping through the channels on his TV. It was late, the kind of late where everything seems surreal, where the world outside is quiet and your mind starts to wander. He stumbled upon a children's show, a harmless cartoon, or so it seemed. But then something caught his attention. One of the characters, with a sly grin on his face, had said, "What the fudge?" At first, Thomas was stunned. He had to rewind the show, convinced he'd misheard. But there it was, clear as day. What the fudge? A phrase so close to the real thing that it left a bitter taste in his mouth. Have you got to be shitting me, he thought. They are still teaching kids to swear, just disguising it, playing it off as innocent. But Thomas knew better. He saw the game being played, the subtle manipulation. It wasn't just about a word, it was about conditioning, about teaching children from a young age to accept certain things, to blur the lines between right and wrong. The word is the same, he thought, just wrapped in a different package. But the intent, the meaning, it's all there. He started to notice more of these subtle shifts, these small coincidences that were anything but. Society was being divided, fractured into smaller and smaller pieces. People were being pitted against each other over trivial differences, while the real issues, the ones that mattered, were being ignored. It was a strategy as old as time, divide and conquer, and it was working. Thomas saw it in the way people talked to each other, or rather, the way they didn't. Conversations had become shouting matches, and everyone was quick to take sides. The media played its part, feeding the frenzy, spinning stories that fueled the fire. They want us divided, Thomas realized. They want us so busy fighting each other that we don't see who's pulling the strings. He couldn't shake the feeling that everything was connected, part of a larger plan. The so-called leaders were just figureheads, distractions meant to keep the public's eyes off the true puppeteers. The real power lay in the shadows, where the strings were pulled and the narrative controlled. But the problem was that most people were too wrapped up in the show to see the strings. They took the bait, believed the lies, and fell into the trap. "Wake up, please," Thomas would say to anyone who would listen. "Look beyond what they show you. There are no coincidences, no innocent mistakes. It's all by design." And yet, despite his warnings, the world continued to sleepwalk through the illusion, blind to the reality beneath the surface. Thomas knew he couldn't wake everyone up, but he kept trying, hoping that some would listen, that some would see the truth before it was too late. "The truth is out there," he'd whisper, echoing the old saying, hidden in plain sight. He wasn't a conspiracy theorist, not by any stretch, but he understood the power of manipulation, the way truth could be twisted into something unrecognizable. The puppet masters were clever, but they weren't infallible. The cracks in their facade were there, if you knew where to look. And Thomas, with his sharp eyes and sharper mind, saw those cracks. He saw the way children were being molded, their innocence chipped away with every harmless phrase and every coincidental event. He saw the way society was being torn apart, piece by piece, until there was nothing left but isolated individuals, too distracted by their differences to unite against a common enemy. In the end, Thomas's message was simple, yet profound. "Love each other," he would say, echoing the one law he held above all else. "Don't let them divide you. See the humanity in each other, and don't be fooled by the lies." It was a message of hope in a world that seemed intent on despair. And though Thomas knew that the road ahead would be long and hard, he held on to that hope, believing that one day, the world would wake up from its slumber and see the truth. And when that day came, when the strings were cut and the puppets were free, the world would finally be what it was meant to be, a place of love, unity, and understanding, where coincidences were no more, and everything was exactly as it should be.